Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome to another Bedrock Edition tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to build a very simple, cheap, and extremely efficient Enderman farm for your Minecraft world. As far as I'm aware, this is either one of the most or the most efficient Enderman farm on the Bedrock Edition platform at the moment, especially in the Village and Pillage update and beyond, because they've changed a lot of the spawning mechanics. So basically what that means is that you'll get around 200 Endermen, which is the entire mob cap full in about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, or roughly 30 levels of experience in 4 minutes. So as you can see, this thing is really efficient, quite high up there on the list of best experience sources for this platform. And also, keep in mind, this farm is very simple and cheap as well. There is no redstone, no moving parts, no endermites, and no name tags, and basically just like 4 hoppers. It's really simple. So in this video, I'll be showing you everything that you need to know about how to build this farm in your world in survival mode, and I'll also be telling you about all of the different mechanics that go into building this farm in your world so you can understand why everything is built the way that it is. So as you can see, we have a kill chamber just utterly full of Endermen. So this thing has a lot of Endermen in it. We actually have a counter over here. You can see the command. This isn't cheaty at all. It's just to give us 1 item for every single Enderman inside of this chamber. So if we press the button, you can see that we have a lot. I think that's probably going to be about 300 or so. But yes, of course, while you're standing down here, you can hit all these guys, get yourself experience, get yourself ender pearls. We have item collection running underneath this thing in the form of a hopper minecart. And as you can see, it is producing a ton of ender pearls. So this farm might be a little bit larger than maybe you expect, but that is perfectly fine. Let me do a little bit of explaining about the mechanics and how this farm works, and you'll see that everything is properly proportioned and that anyone can build this in their world. So there are 3 main parts to this farm. Part 1 is of course the spawning platform, which you can see before you here. All of the Endermen basically spawn here and get pushed immediately into water. This forces them to start teleporting because they are taking damage, and the only available blocks for them to teleport to is going to be this fire platform, which is part 2 of this farm. So of course the fire is also going to deal damage to the Enderman, which is wonderful. That's going to force them to start teleporting as well, and the only place that they'll be able to teleport is downwards from there. So then we just keep on leading them further and farther away from that spawn platform and basically right into part 3, which is the killing chamber. As you can see, this thing has a bunch of flaming Endermen in it, which is perfect. This is basically where all of your Endermen are going to end up. Now, the reason why we have to send them so far away from our spawn platform is because the game does a massive, utterly massive density check around where it's trying to spawn a mob. So basically it's going to search all of the chunks surrounding where it's trying to spawn that mob. If it finds too many mobs in that density check, it's going to abandon spawning anything. So by moving the Endermen so far away, we keep that density check empty, allowing more things to spawn. So the one last thing that needs explaining about this farm is the rail line. So there was a pretty massive change to the spawning algorithm in the Village and Pillage update. So basically things will only spawn from 24 to 54 blocks away from the player, whereas before it was the entire loaded area of the world that had a player in it. Anywhere in that area would be able to spawn a mob, but now we have this absolutely minuscule spawn sphere to work with. So we have to move up to the spot right here for our spawn platform to actually spawn anything, and as you can see, there is just a bunch of Endermen teleporting all over the place. Quite fun to watch, actually. I quite enjoy it. But yeah, we basically have to AFK up here for a couple of minutes to fill up the entire mob cap, and then we can roll back on down to the bottom and kill all of our Endermen very quickly and kind of conveniently. So sadly, you can't just stand here in one spot. You do have to move around for a little bit. Using the power of commands, we can visualize the spawning sphere. So I set this up as kind of a dome, but of course it is a sphere. This is the 24 marker. Nothing will spawn inside of this. And this is the 54 marker. Nothing will spawn outside of this when you are standing on that sea lantern in there. As you can see, it is a pretty minuscule area and pretty much impossible to build an Enderman farm for experience that is actually efficient inside of the sphere. and in case you are curious about the commands, you can see them on screen right now. I used the same commands to find the best AFK spot, which is right there. So there is the rough 24 sphere, and there is the rough 54 sphere as well. Of course, these are not filled in, but it's good enough to assure you that all of these spawning platforms are completely valid, and none of them will be outside of the spawn sphere, so you get maximum efficiency from the AFK spot. So a little bit of a warning about this farm: 200 mobs can be a little bit laggy if you are playing on a realm, so maybe you don't want to, AFK for the full 3 minutes to get all these mobs. And also, if you do want to bypass the mob cap, there is a way to do it, but again, it's gonna get kind of laggy. 200 mobs is already pretty laggy, and that is what you'll get by standing at the proper AFK spot, which is right here. However, if you go a single block further, the game won't just spawn 200 mobs, it'll spawn an infinite number of mobs because those Endermen are in unloaded chunks. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you do want to get more than 200 Endermen, you can just by going a block further, but it is not recommended. It is very laggy, and do not do this on a multiplayer server. It could seriously cause some issues. So that is everything that you need to know about the mechanics of this farm. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, then let me know with a comment down below. Always trying to help you guys out as best as I possibly can. And before we hop into the tutorial, there's going to be a full materials list and world download in the description as well for your convenience. And also, if you do enjoy these kinds of mob farms and want to see more of them in the future, then be sure to subscribe. Of course, there are more on the way. But without further ado, let's hop into the tutorial, shall we? The first thing that you want to do for this farm is bridge a couple hundred blocks out away from your main end island. That way, none of the Endermen on your main island will affect your rates. So as you can see, from the coordinates in the upper left, we are currently at 249 and 0, and that is perfect. None of the Endermen over there are going to be affecting the rates of our farm. So from this point in the tutorial forward, everything that we are going to build will be chunk aligned. You have to chunk align this entire build, otherwise it will not work. Keep that in mind. Everything has to be chunk aligned. Any method of chunk aligning will work. I will be using a texture pack that shows red and blue lines throughout the entire world. It is very convenient for recording and for the video. So as you can see, we now have the texture pack online, and the only lines that are important are the blue ones and the red ones, because those are the proper chunk boundaries. As you can see, this is the corner of 4 different chunks right here, like so. So pretty straightforward. You can ignore all of the green lines because they are not relevant to anything that we are doing. But I also went ahead and marked out the edges of our first chunk. This is of course a 16 by 16 area located right next to our 200 point. And I also marked out the central block of this as well. We're going to be building the rest of the farm going in that direction towards the end city islands. So decide on which of these 2 blocks you want to have be the actual center of your farm, since our kill chamber is going to be an odd number. But basically, this is the central block that we just decided upon, and I would suggest building up yourself a nice little platform to stand on out of glass. They don't spawn or teleport to this stuff. And now we need to actually work on the killing chamber. So the killing chamber is going to be lined up with your central block. It is going to be 9 blocks wide by 3 blocks deep, so that you can reach all the Endermen in the backside. And then this is going to be the layout of rails and powered rails. So you can go ahead and copy that into your world. And all of these hoppers are going to be pointing into these 3 double chests right here. Now you will need to place a water bucket and kind of swim down this thing to place blocks lower than your actual ring that you've already put in place. Slightly unfortunate, but it's actually pretty easy. And that is pretty much it. Of course, we have levers on the underside of this as well to power those powered rails, and everything else is pretty straightforward. So above all of your rails, you want to go ahead and place in the solid blocks of your actual kill chamber. Again, it is going to be 9 by 3 and completely contained in this first chunk that we have marked out. Once you have that done, place in your hopper minecart on this powered rail over here and put 9 walls right in front of these blocks. So that'll keep the Enderman from ever actually hitting you, which is kind of nice. And then skip a block and have a solid block row right above all of those walls with any kind of trapdoor on the back side of it, except iron trapdoors, probably going to be kind of inconvenient. This will also keep the Enderman from hitting you as well. And now from here, you basically want to build a 3 block tall glass wall going all the way around this kill chamber to keep all of your Endermen in there. Once your walls are in place, go ahead and put trapdoors on the back of this thing as well. That'll help push all the Endermen forward, making it easier for you to hit them, and also prevents you from breaking any of the glass as well. And cover all of this with glass as well, prevent things from teleporting or spawning there. Now, one note about this, you can actually flick these trapdoors while you're standing right here. However, sometimes the Endermen will be stuck right there and you won't be able to hit them. Very strange, very buggy. Hopefully they fix that in a future update. And now it's time to start building our Netherrack flaming platform. So we're gonna head inside of the kill chamber. Again, this is right on the edge of our chunk, and we're gonna start counting up by 17. This has to be 17 exactly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Make sure you triple count that. It has to be exact. And then, as you can see from our chunk boundaries, our entire Netherrack flaming platform is going to be in the next chunk over. That's kind of how this entire thing works. And yeah, basically just go ahead and mark out the 16 by 16 square of this platform, and then we can go from there. Alright, so now that you have this thing marked out, you should go ahead and fill it in with Netherrack as well. So that is pretty straightforward. And now you also want to go ahead and pillar up by 2 and get yourself a ring of lower half slabs going all the way around this thing. Make sure it's on the second block up, so basically head height. That way none of your Endermen walk on top of these or teleport to them or fall off of your flaming platform. This will save you a few Endermen fallen into the void, more or less. So yeah, just go ahead and surround this entire thing with this ring. Eventually we'll go ahead and light this entire platform on fire, but we're not going to worry about that right now. That'll be the final thing that we do with this farm. And in case you're wondering why we're using fire, it's literally perfect. They can teleport to it, it does damage to them, it doesn't do an extreme amount of damage to them, so it doesn't kill them, and literally nothing else in this game is perfect as fire is. All of these other things like snow golems, water, lava, arrows, tridents, endermites, a cactus, none of these things work. The only other option would be magma blocks, but sometimes they don't take damage on them. Super buggy. So literally fire is our only option. And now we need to make 2 more platforms exactly like this. So we're going to go ahead and head to the back of this platform over here and count up by 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And this is going to be the next layer of our next platform. You build this one the exact same as the lower one. So let me just get this built up real quick. And there we go. This platform is completely done. Of course, it is chunk aligned. It is a 16 by 16 of Netherrack with this little slab line going around the edges, exact same as that one down below. And now we need to build up 1 more of these, which I will do off camera because it's exactly the same deal. So we now have 3 identical Netherrack platforms in place, and it's all looking very fine. So now we need to build up a 4th one as well. This 4th one's going to be a little bit different, but as you can see, it is still 17 blocks higher than the 3rd platform, so we are good to go on that front. So of course you're going to make your standard 16 by 16 square that is chunk aligned. As you can see, we have our chunk border lines in place, but we're going to put 3 additional blocks to the left side all the way back to the edge, of course, and fill that in a little bit later on. And then we're going to have 3 blocks to the right side as well, and of course fill that in going all the way back. So this thing is going to be 22 blocks wide by 16 blocks deep. Now is a great time to go ahead and mark out the 2 central blocks of your central chunk on the back side over here. So this is of course lined up with the rest of your farm thus far, and right underneath these 2 blocks is actually going to be your AFK spot eventually. Now that we're done with this Netherrack platform, we're going to move on to the last platform, which is going to have water on top of it for our spawn pods. So this is going to be of course directly lined up with the rest of the farm that we've built so far. So go ahead and mark out this chunk, 1 chunk to the left of it, and 1 chunk to the right of it as well. And of course this is going to be 1 block lower than your Netherrack platform, because we're going to have water right here at this layer. So fill in this entire thing with stone or cobblestone. You don't want to use dirt because Enderman can pick up your dirt and ruin your platform, so just use stone. So now that all of our stone is filled in, we need to make 2 rings of slabs going all the way around all of this platform, including Netherrack and stone. So the first ring is going to be a lower half slab ring right here on the very edge of the stone platform, just to keep the water from flowing off into the void and causing a massive mess. And then the next one, you need to pillar up by 2 blocks from on top of your Netherrack and make another lower half slab ring going all the way around your netherrack platform and above this ring as well. That will just prevent all of your endermen from getting on top of this ring and also from flying off of your platform into the void. And if you want a nice little overhead of exactly how to build all of this, there you go, you can take your screenshots right now. At this point, you probably have a lot of endermen up here and you probably want a safe area to deal with them, so you can flood your lower platform right now if you want to, or if you feel like that's going to be in your way, then don't worry about flooding it, but basically just take water sources all the way along two edges, and then they'll just flow into the center, making an infinite source on their own. So now we need to start working on the actual spawn platforms. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to this far corner over here, and then we're just going to go in by 1 block. So that's going to be 1, this is going to be the block that you start with, and go up by 7. So that's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then right on top of this is where we're going to actually start building up our spawn platforms. So the thing about the spawn platform is it's going to be a massive checkerboard of solid blocks and then air gaps in between it. So the ideal situation is something like this, but without these dirt blocks in here. So this is going to be slightly tedious to build in survival mode. However, I do have some tips for you to make it a lot easier for you in your worlds. So the first thing that you should know is that on the Bedrock edition, which is literally the only platform that you should be building this on, doesn't work on any other platform, you can actually reach over the block and place it in mid-air magically. This is a thing for all platforms of Bedrock, so that makes it way easier to build. And then, yeah, you just kind of alternate in between your actual spawn block and the filler block. The next idea is that you want to have like solid stone or stone bricks or whatever for your spawn spots. And then for your filler junk block, you want to have dirt. That way, when you're done filling in all of your solid blocks, you can run by with a shovel, knock out all the dirt, and it just be super quick and easy. So basically, you need to fill in this entire platform with checkered solid blocks going all the way down. I should also mention that this thing is not the same size as the actual water platform. So as you can see, it's in by 1 block, in by 1 block, and in by 1 block on this side as well. So technically this thing is 46 blocks wide by 14 blocks deep. It is inside the water by 1 block on every single side. So once you have this big platform in place, we are pretty much good to go. Do not remove any of your dirt, however. You're going to need that to stand on. What you want to do is you want to skip 2 blocks above each one of your actual spawn spots, and then on the 3rd block, place a glass block. So what this is going to do is as soon as the endermen spawn, their head's going to be in that glass block, and that's going to force them out to the side where they will then fall down straight into their water and teleport down into your kill chamber. Pretty straightforward and simple, but we need to have a glass block above each one of our spawn spots. So set up something like this, basically just dirt above all the dirts, glass above all of the actual spawn spots. And then once you have that in, it's going to be a lot easier to actually place everything since you have a platform to stand on. This one is not going to be nearly as tedious as this lower platform, I swear to it. So currently we have one of these spawn platforms in place. If you went ahead and removed all of this dirt, this would be a fully functional farm besides the fire and the AFK spot, of course. But what I'm trying to say is that if you just had this single platform, you would get your 200 endermen in 5 minutes. Now, the second platform is going to be kind of tedious to build. I'll explain why in a moment. But with that second platform, you'll get your 200 endermen in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So if you want just like a pretty good enderman farm, you pretty much already got that. You can skip the second platform. But if you want like a really good enderman farm, then maybe consider building up the second platform, although it is going to be a little bit time consuming. So basically what we need to do is we need to build our next spawn platform at this layer right here, right above our dirt blocks. That is because if you have solid blocks right above each other, the endermen will never spawn on the lower one. There are no cave spawns for endermen in the end dimension. And even if this was like a slab or some form of transparent block, they would still only choose the uppermost block. They would never spawn on the lower one. So we have to alternate this. Now, because we're alternating it, that means that our endermen are going to fall on these glass blocks, which have to be here. So we're going to have to build up some water sources inside of this thing as well, which ice is going to be your best friend. You're going to want a small ice farm to build this second layer, or you can use an infinite water source, but that is going to be seriously tedious. So basically above each and every single one of your dirt blocks that is in this glass layer right here, you need to pillar up by 2 blocks and just make these the same kind of blocks that you use down here for your spawn spots. And then in between all of these spots right above your glass, right above that spawn spot down there, you want a source of water. Now, what I would suggest doing is I would suggest putting a block of ice in there and then breaking that without soak touch, and that will give you a water source. That's going to be way more convenient, although you will get this kind of slowdown effect. That is a bug. So yeah, just do that for the entire platform, ignoring the edges. I will cover the edges in the next clip. So all of our solid blocks are now in place above our dirt, and our water is now in place above these glass blocks, which is above the lower spawning spot for all of these inner holes. We'll get to the outer holes in just a second. But now what we want to do is go to this back right corner over here, and this block is right above this corner. So just go ahead and mark that one out, and then you basically want to make this a diagonal of 3 blocks. So anything that is, on this side of the diagonal, you want to remove going down to the bottom layer of water. So basically just like that, we can remove these pieces of dirt as well because they were just there for filler blocks. And the reason why we're doing that is that any Endermen that are going to be spawning down and falling in this very far corner are going to have a hard time teleporting that platform. More often than not, they're just going to die. Now, the farm is incomplete, so you can't see this in action. However, by sacrificing a few spawn spots, we, free up a lot of room in the mob cap most of the time. So you should be left with a 4 block upper layer right here and a 5 block lower layer on this side. So you also want to remove the blocks on this corner too. So go ahead and do the 3 block diagonal, and that should leave you with a 5 block upper diagonal. And then you'll have these pieces of glass block below this 4 block lower diagonal, and then you know that you've done everything correctly. And now we need to finish installing all of our water on our edges and our corners as well. So remember, every single one of these pieces of magenta glass needs to have a water source on top of them. All of these inner ones should have already been done. If not, now is the time to do it. And as for these outer edges, you want to place a piece of glass and then 3 glass blocks up on the edges. So technically these lower 2 blocks could be solid blocks if you want them to be. I will be using glass, however, because it does kind of look nice. And if these things don't melt on their own, you will need to go through and break them with your pickaxe to make sure that they actually turn into water. So you need to do this for this back corner as well. Place in your ice blocks and then place in all of your glass right on the sides of it, going up by 3, and this will ensure that every single Enderman that spawns on this upper platform will be immediately put into water and then have to teleport down into your kill chamber. So the ice should go all the way around the entire thing on the edges except this back right corner, because these ones just go and fall straight down into water, so it's not needed on this side. And in case you're not bored or tired or hate me for having to place so many blocks already, we need to place in one final layer of blocks, and you can probably guess what it is. We need to go 2 blocks above these solid blocks right here and place in 1 more layer of glass. And again, we're gonna have to do this with the dirt thing. That way we have the filler blocks so that we can easily remove. You know the deal, every single one of these quartz spawning blocks needs to have a piece of glass at the head height, and that's what's gonna force them down into these water tables and then make them teleport into your kill chamber. So now go ahead and remove all of your dirt and all of your torches, and you should see some Endermen spawn on this top platform and hopefully the lower one as well. They'll fall into the water and then they'll teleport to this thing over here, and maybe they'll walk into some fire and keep on teleporting downwards. Perfect example. So as you can see, this thing does work very well, and it's about 25% more efficient than any other Enderman farm I have ever seen for this platform. I think it's kind of worth the hassle. And now we need to make another 2 slab rings going around the back edge of this farm. So from your second ring, the third one is going to be a 3 blocks gap. And of course, that's going to be lower half slabs right there. And then the fourth one is going to be a 2 block gap from the third one. So basically, these will keep your Endermen from, spawning in groups of 4, splitting, flying into the void, and it'll just keep them on track for falling into your water. So pretty simple and straightforward. And just start it from that corner right there, going all the way back around to this other corner right here, and you are good to go. Our spawn platforms are finally done. It took long enough, and now we need to mark out the actual AFK spot of this farm, which is going to be underneath one of these 2 sea lanterns, depending on which one you chose as your actual center way back at the beginning. We chose the left as our center, so that's what we're gonna do. And we basically need to go downwards by 32 blocks. This is actually gonna be pretty easy. So take your Y coordinates, which is in our case 117. You wanna subtract 32 from that, which will give us 85. And then basically just pop out a 2x2 so that you got some nice water to go down. And then just build a pillar of blocks going all the way down until you get to your correct Y value. And then you can actually place a block underneath you and go from there. So we should be approaching our AFK spot here in a few blocks. And there we go. We've landed on our proper AFK spot. Again, this is the most optimal spot to stand for this farm to work perfectly and be minimum distance from your kill chamber. So now that you have your spot marked out, you'll need to get that block underneath you, of course. You can go ahead and remove this pillar and maybe swim back up here and fill in this hole because that's kind of ugly and gross. But you'll also need to make a glass staircase or rail line going from your kill chamber down there up and into your actual AFK spot. So feel free to make this as safe or as precarious as you can. Just make sure to build it completely out of glass. That way no Endermen spawn on it and no Endermen teleport to it either. Go ahead and remove all of your counting and marker blocks from your build, such as your 17 tall pillars and just your general markers. And finally, for the funnest part, light all of your platforms going from the bottom upwards and your farm will finally be active and good to go. Make sure there is no lighting near your kill chamber at all because remember, Bedrock Edition despawns mobs based on light levels. So if there's a bunch of lights around your kill chamber, these guys are gonna despawn basically about as fast as they actually spawn. So again, make sure you're AFKing directly underneath your Netherrack platform. That way you only ever have 200 mobs in your kill chamber. You can actually see all the particles from the Enderman. If we go up one block further, we will be in a different chunk underneath our stone platform and spawn chamber, and you'll no longer be able to see those particles. And that means that the game is going to build up insane quantities of mobs and it will be very laggy. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything I show in this video, hit me up with a comment down below. Always trying to help you guys out as best as I possibly can. And if you enjoyed this video, consider sharing it around with others as well. I'm sure they would enjoy having this farm in the world. This has also taken many hours, days, and long nights to design, test, and record this video. So hopefully you all did enjoy. And also, if you're new here and you want to see more farms like this in the future, be sure to subscribe. We are at 40,000 subscribers, which is totally insane. Thank you all so very much for the support, and thank you for watching as well. I will see you guys down in the comment section and in the next one. And then there was silence.